G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Bobby Jones from Yellowhammer Properties. He's based in Birmingham, Alabama in the United States. Thanks for your time today, Bobby.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, Troy.
Let's start with how we know each other. So Jade on your team reached out and thought you might be a good guest to come on. So really appreciate your time.
Happy to be here. Pleasure.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Absolutely. Well, my current business, I do multiple things, but the Yellowhammer Properties is a flipping business that I started back in 2013, and we do high volume flips. I buy properties, distressed properties, and I renovate them and sell them. And then whatever the difference is between the purchase and the rehab is the net. I take that money and then I invest in multifamily assets and apartment complexes primarily, and those assets pay passive income. So and then I am working alongside Elena Cardone, who is Grant Cardone's wife. Yep. With 10X, with the 10X organization with EXP, and what I do with that is I'm an attractor for real estate agents, and I like that model. It's a different type of brokerage than any other brokerage in the world. It's a global brokerage, and it's a virtual brokerage, and you have the ability to make leveraged income through it, which attracted me as an investor, because I'm not looking for just transactional income. I'm looking for passive and leveraged income.
Right, great. And that work you do there, so what kind of businesses is it? Just property that you're investing in there? Property businesses?
In terms of EXP or Yellowhammer Properties?
Yeah. The first one, yeah.
Well, EXP, the brokerage that I'm working alongside Elena Cardone, that is an actual traditional, you're a realtor. I'm a realtor. So
yep. Mm-hmm.
What I do, my kind of formula is the properties that I buy to flip, I co-list them on the back end. So I'm selling it for the net profit, but I'm also making the commission from co-listing to my agents.
Got it.
That's how I make money there. But the structure in terms of how it works with EXP is when you bring an agent, the only way to come in through the agency is to sponsor an agent. So when you come on to EXP, you have to be sponsored. So when I bring an agent in, I'm their sponsor. So when they go and sell real estate, I get a commission. I get a part of their revenue.
Yep.
And then every agent that they bring on, and it's kind of like a domino effect. And the beauty with working alongside Elena Cardone is just her marketing. They're paying millions of dollars a month in marketing. So I'm able to leverage that through my relationship with them.
Yeah, great. We'll link through to EXP in the show notes. And how did you start out?
In the business?
Yeah,
just my backstory. I'm 43 years old now. I've been in real estate for a little over 21 years, but I kind of came right out of college and high school. I thought that the business was going to be computer business. So I started a business building computers with a friend of mine, and I was helping a guy that was trying to, get a little bit more technology sound. He was an older guy. And so we were converting some of his appraisal work over to a computer. And I started seeing some invoices that he had out on the desk. I was young and curious and didn't mind asking. I said, man, you're making a whole lot of money here. And he said, hey, if you want to take the courses to become an appraiser, I'll pay for them. So he did. It was like an $800 course. He paid for my courses. And one of the last things he told me was, don't ever let this go. And it kind of stuck with me. And about 6 months later, after I met him, after he paid for my courses, he died. And I kind of took over the business, the appraisal business, and I was able to become one of in my mind, I was the largest appraisal company in Alabama. I had clients across the United States. And, a lot of people, I was young, and a lot of people that were working, I had people moving and going, and I was making $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 a day, cash money. But in 2008, 2009, the Dodd-Frank Act happened, which made, it was kind of the whole deal with the adjustable rate mortgages and all that the appraisers got kind of thrown under the bus, and everybody was blaming everybody. So the Dodd-Frank Act made it where you could not solicit your own clients. You had to go through a third-party management company. And so overnight, I lost all my clients in the appraisal business. And from the market crash hit the same year, 2008, 2009, I lost my whole single family portfolio. But I noticed that the people that had their money in multifamily assets didn't get hit near as hard, and they haven't. It's been typically recession proof. So, long story short, I wanted to really gain a lot of credibility in my state. I started locally before I branched out nationally and now globally. But I hold more real estate licenses than anybody that I know of in the state of Alabama. I have a mass appraiser license. I have a fee appraiser license. I'm a realtor. I'm a builder. I'm FHA approved as an inspector with the government. And but at the end of the day, all those licenses and knowledge doesn't make you money. Knowledge without application doesn't make you money. And you don't have to know. I tell everybody, you don't have to know every chord on a guitar, every chord in a theory book to play a beautiful song. The Beatles knew 4 chords, and they when they started out, and they made a ton of beautiful songs. And that's the same way in real estate. You can have a specific niche, a specific knowledge, and really take that to a high level. So that's what I started doing. I started a flipping business, and I'm taking that money, putting it into multifamily assets because that's the only way to wealth. You can get rich through transactional things, but the only way to true wealth is to have passive income and to the point that you have financial freedom. And the only way to financial freedom is when your passive income meets or exceeds your expenses.
Yep, absolutely. And do you have some key numbers to illustrate the growth of the business?
Well, in terms of the flipping business.
Yep.
Yeah, we've scaled up to the point of several $1 million in revenue. When we started, if you look at a typical flipping business, it changes from market to market. In California, for example, I was seeing a spreadsheet the other day where they had like $32 million in gross revenue, but they were only netting $1.2 million a year. And that's kind of typical. It's scaled down from a market like mine, because a $350,000 home in my market would be $1 million home easily in California. And so in real estate, you're always having to pour that money back into. So if your accountant's good, it's going to look like you're breaking even a lot, because you're rolling those expenses over. You have a lot of cost segregation. You have a lot of write-offs and that type of thing. So, but the key is volume. The key is volume. And we've been able to increase our volume, through all my businesses. In multifamily, it's just by connecting in other states and doing joint venture and collaboration. There is really no competition. It's really the more collaboration you can do. My whole mindset is not to get a lot of a little, it's to get a little of a lot. So I do a lot of deals. I just closed on a 134 unit in Houston, Texas, and I don't have a very big part in that deal, but it gives me a lot of credibility with the banks. I did it with a lot of big players, and I get a little cash flow from it. I get some upside at the end of it, and I can take those relationships and continue to scale and scale and scale. And that's kind of what my growth model is just to get a little bit of a lot.
What about team members? You just started out on your own. What kind of rough team members across all your businesses would you be at now?
Just like everybody else. Until you learn what your highest and best use is, I think I'm learning every single day. just here recently, I'm taking my foot out of another business that I own and I'm trying to really get more into the promotion side of it. I am an expert in real estate. I've made sure of that in many areas. And so when you have that, so I'm good with numbers. I'm good with the actual hands-on part of it, the construction and all that. And you want to oversee it, and sometimes you get to the point where you feel like, hey, your crew is not going to do, your team members are not going to do it the way that you will. But I know that my superpower is leadership, and my superpower is connecting with people on a large scale. So that's my goal now. So I've been putting people in place that can do the job, just even if they can do it 75% as good as I am, and I can scale up. And I think that's where a lot of people make the mistake is they think that they're going to lose money paying somebody to do it.
Yep.
But that is the only way that you can scale up. And that, yeah.
Yeah, and I certainly struggle with the perfectionism and control issues that a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs have, that you can't scale unless you delegate and get people in. Yeah. So
100%.
Roughly how many full-time equivalents now across the group?
I'm shooting from the hips when I say 50,
Wow.
because it's more than that are actually part of the team.
Yep.
I mean, legitimately, I could say hundreds in like with the EXP, because we all work as a team, and
Yep.
we all are. I couldn't make the money that I'm making without them. But it's different in real estate because not everybody's on a specific payroll. It's kind of like a joint venture. Everybody, it's kind of partnerships, multiple partnerships. I have multiple LLCs. I have multiple S corporations. I have multiple entities. And these guys are really more so a partner than they are an employee.
Yep.
And so we share in the revenue, we share in the net, and we share in the responsibilities.
Yep. Great. When was the moment you felt like you succeeded?
I still don't think I think that, I'm a man of faith. So I really feel like my purpose and calling is to lead others to financial freedom using biblical principles. And my thing is, I'm always looking for the next mountain to climb and the next goal to achieve. So I get really depressed if I accomplish something and I don't have another goal lined up right behind it. So in my mind, I don't know that I'll ever quote unquote succeed, but I'm just going to keep climbing and keep growing and keep trying to help others and give back to others as much as I can.
Yeah, well, that's the next question. What does success look like to you?
Success to me looks like using your purpose and calling and gifts to help others, and not just myself. I mean, I had a six-figure. In the midst of all that, I also promised my father that I would get a pension, from a government job, and so I did that, running all these businesses before I took a retirement. And so I had a six-figure job, which a lot of people think was great money here in the States. And I, from myself, I don't need anything else. I don't need any other income to live for me. Mm-hmm. I'm doing very well, but to do the things that I want to do to help others, I've got a long way to go. I'll never get there.
Yep. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
The number one thing is everybody's got to know what you're doing. Grant Cardone says it best. He says, if they don't know you, that they can't flow you. So that means you can't live in obscurity. You have to be omnipresent. You have to tell everybody that, what you do. I've done probably close to 10,000 real estate deals in my life, and I've never once paid for a real estate lead. There's a lot of people that'll pay for those leads to come in. And for me, your relationships is everything in life. Your relationships with God, your relationships with your family, your relationships with your friends. And that's how you build a business. That's how you build. The number one thing in life is is relationships, but the number one thing for businesses is marketing. If you're not marketing, then you're not going to keep, because the name of the game now is speed.
Yep.
And people want to be able to Google and see a name right then And if you don't have a presence and you don't have a brand, you're going to get lost.
Yeah. And how did you fund the business?
In the beginning?
Yeah.
In the beginning, you do what you can. I mean, debt is a good thing. People think that debt is a bad thing, because that's what the world and the government tells us to do. But debt is not taxable. So you can that's how people become rich, is by acquiring debt. The people that acquire debt and use it to buy assets is the people that make money. You just got to know how the numbers work. Income you're taxed on.
Yep.
But if you go get a loan for $1 million, you're not taxed on that debt. So you take that debt and go buy an asset that will pay you.
Yep.
So being able to leverage debt, being able to leverage, and that's exactly what I did in the beginning. I private money loans, hard money loans, bank loans. Now I have my personal cash, but a true investor, they use other people's money. So, and that's what I do. I use other people. Very rarely do I use my own money to invest in real estate.
Yep. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Would I go into the industry I'm in now?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that everybody on the planet needs to invest in real estate, no matter what business you're in. Real estate is the number one. Real estate and sales, but real estate primarily is the number one wealth building vehicle in the world.
I remember reading only a few years ago, well, they used to have a BRW rich list here in Australia, and I think that's the top 100 or 200 people wealthiest in the nation. And I'd be reading that nearly every year, and consistently 80% of people on that list built their wealth, I should say, from property. And that number didn't drop too much. Even when all the tech startups came up, there's some outliers there, but property investment is still a big wealth generation tool. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah. In 2000, I'm married now, and I've got 3 boys. But in that same year, in 2008, 2009, I was in a divorce. The Dodd-Frank Act happened and destroyed that business because I lost all my clients overnight. And on top of that, I lost my single family portfolio, and there was no, really real estate activity in my market at that time. So I was, I lost every materialistic thing that I had in the divorce. I would say that was my biggest, I was 30 years old at the time, and I was a millionaire before I was 30 years old. And so to have to start over right then, and I know that's still relatively young, but it was a big wake up call for me. But it woke me up in a lot of ways, because I was very good at making money at that time, but I was equally as bad spending it. So I was making it and spending it, and that's what a lot of people do. So that was a good thing for me. It kind of opened my eyes up and made me learn to diversify my investments a whole lot better, and to also acquire assets that were going to be recession and market failure proof, for lack of better words.
Yep. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Well, I think scaling from a standpoint of putting people in place that I can trust. I've always had really good discernment on things in terms of who I associated with and who I went into business with, but also marketing, like we were talking about a while ago. McDonald's, has not a very good burger, right? But there's a lot of better food out there, but their marketing is key. And so, marketing is one thing that I think that we can most of us can improve.
Agreed.
And I definitely had to do that.
Yeah, I think small business owners undervalue that, or just don't throw enough time at that, the professional development, so they can understand it better, and also just improve the business's, marketing. It's a huge lever that you can pull to add value.
Absolutely.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
The turnover. Because not everybody has what it takes to, operate at the level that quite frankly I operate at. And I'm a very second, third, fourth, fifth, 20th type of chance type of guy. And I
Yeah.
think that you really have to be very decisive when you want to grow. You're going to outgrow if you're growing, you're going to probably outgrow most of your friends, most of your partners and all that, because a lot of them aren't. You may start off here, but if you're growing and they're not, you're just going to kind of leave them behind. You got to know when to leave them behind,
Yeah.
and you kind of got to get the emotional attachment out of it. And because I mean, I've employed family members. I've employed people that that I really wanted to see succeed, and you really got to take your heart out of it sometimes in order to be a business.
Yeah. What do you love most about growing a small business?
Well, what I love most about growing a small business is making it a big business.
Yeah.
That's I love growth. I'm a competitive type of a person, um, and I love seeing other people. What I like growing the business is because the more you grow, the more people you include, and the more you change their lives, and the more you expand. So I guess from the standpoint of helping others is the bottom line, is what I really like best about it.
What's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
I've always had I grew up playing sports, and I grew up always, my whole thing is to be mentally tough, physically tough, and spiritually tough. I get up every morning and because I am a man of faith, I do my prayer, my worship, and I listen to my worship music, and then I get immediately into that's my spiritual toughness. And I get into my physical toughness. I do Muay Thai, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I do weight training, I do all kinds of physical things. But before most people get out of bed by 6 or 7 a.m., I'm done with all that. And then I get mentally tough, but I don't watch TV. I don't really do anything that I'm not learning. If I have time, I'm learning a guitar chord, or I'm learning something about real estate that's going to improve me. So I don't know if you've ever read the book by David Goggins. It's called Can't Hurt Me. But just to get that mental toughness that you're going to drive through any obstacle is probably a mind shift that we all got to go through, because a lot of people are raised in a little bit of a self-pity mentality, or some type of a mentality that that we're owed something. Or my thing is in order to grow, every mistake that happens, you can really point the finger back at yourself. And that's the biggest thing, the hurdle, I think, people, because we're all prideful people sometimes, especially as an entrepreneur. If there's a mistake, we want to point the finger at somebody else for making that mistake. But I've learned that any mistake that happens in my company, I can pretty much at the end of the day point the finger back at myself, because either I put them in that position, or I did, or something I did allowed for that mistake to happen.
What is the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
I think that a small business person needs to, consistency.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that, because people want immediate gratification when they start a business up. I've had multiple businesses, every one of them, in fact, that I didn't make money for several years. I didn't. Most businesses don't. I mean, 9 out of 10 businesses fail because you really stop pushing before you really start getting the momentum to make the money. And I see a lot of people who want that immediate gratification. Like in my flips, for example, I've never in 10 years taken a dime back out of my business. I've always poured it back into the business. And so I think if you're a small business and you want to grow, you gotta realize that there's gonna be some sacrifice in the beginning. You gotta pour that money, whatever revenue that you're having, whatever little bit of net profit you're having, you need to pour that. For me, I have a portion of money that I pour back into marketing, like we talked about earlier. I put it away for taxes. I buy assets with it that's going to pay me, and then I take a little small bit of that net, and for personal needs. But it's usually backwards for everybody else.
Yeah.
Usually they don't think about the marketing, they get behind on their taxes, and then they're taking a whole lot of personal money and they're not buying assets with it. So
Yeah. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening? It sounds like you've worked with a lot of people, so you'd have a lot of experience.
You said how to add people to the team?
Excuse me. Yeah. Can you talk to, oh, sorry.
You're good.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team? Some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Yeah. I've added people to the team. Like again, I said, I'm very good at, I have a lot of street smarts. I just grew up with a lot of street smarts. And so I can size people up pretty good and I'm not naive to anything, but at the end of the day, there's people going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yep.
They're going to come out the gate really strong. And then there's going to be really greedy people who are going to be more, you wake up every day basically with a battery, and you can allow people to take their negative energy and drain you, or they can be positive and be an asset to you and give you a charge. And so a lot of times I've allowed people to drain my energy to the point where I was not able to pour into somebody else. And I had to really, really start realizing the people that I was spending an hour with, maybe I need to spend only 5 minutes with, and maybe the people that I was spending 5 minutes with, I need to spend an hour with, because it's a mutual relationship and we're both getting something out of it. I mean, I'm not looking to gain something. I am a giver. I want to pour into people, but you have to realize those people that are just drama. They're constantly negative. They're constantly, I'm just snake bit. I just, self-pity, and those type of people, really, until they get out of that mindset, they're just going to be a drag and a drain. And, there's been so many cases where I've allowed that to just keep going, and I've gotten a lot better at that.
Jump over to growasmallbusiness.com and leave your details to get a short 2-minute email I send on Fridays to help small business owners like you become better leaders. I include some reading or professional development resources I've discovered in the last week.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so now when you're adding people to your team, how do you identify the ones with a bad attitude or negative and keep them out?
You can kind of tell who. I mean, I can at this point, in terms of identification, the people that want to blame everybody else. If something happens, then there's always an excuse, always an excuse, always an excuse. It's never their fault. That's a red flag to me. Another red flag is where, it's just a lot of self-pity, a lot of negative, nothing's ever going right. Can't win for losing. That type of mentality, that shows me that somebody doesn't have, if you think you can't, it's the whole analogy. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So when you start going off on that whole negative mindset, and you can kind of see somebody has that negative mindset, they're going to start. The thing about it is, we can't hang around people that don't influence us.
Yes.
It's not possible. So if you're around somebody with a negative attitude, whether you want them to or not, they're going to influence you.
Yep.
And same way with positive people, same way with if you're hanging around a drug addict, eventually it's going to rub off of you. If you're hanging around a billionaire, eventually some of those good things are going to rub off on you. And so you got to really kind of keep a keen, sharp eye on what kind of characteristics the people that you're surrounding yourself with have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I regularly do a friends audit and drop the odd person. What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth in your team?
And I don't know what your religion is, but I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian, and I don't think that's the only way to dictate growth but you got to have some core values. I think you got to have honesty, integrity, and transparency. I think those are a lot of the core, but you can't, if somebody's going to do something like if I'm in business with somebody and and they tell me some kind of a shady thing they did over here, why would I not think that they would do that to me?
Yeah, exactly.
If you have that characteristic and that kind of a mindset, that's why, my business partners and me, we're very transparent, and we only do good to other people. Because if we do something that's bad to somebody else, even collectively, and we both know we did it, then why would we not believe we wouldn't do that to each other? And so, for me to have growth and to have, any kind of long-lived relationship or company, you have to only associate with people that have core values. And for me, it's transparency, honesty, and integrity.
Yep. Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Man, I am still working on
We
that.
all are.
Because I love so many things. I played I couldn't do it growing up. I played football, baseball, basketball, and track. I could never keep it down to one sport. I've got multiple companies now. I have so many things that I love doing. I've got a family and all that. So I've gotten really, really good at time management. But so for me, it's getting up early, beating the sun up, as Grant Cardone says. I'm up at 4 a.m. in the morning. And believe it or not, I feel like I get a whole jump on the day from a lot of other people who roll out of bed and start their day at 9 or 10 a.m. So,
absolutely.
So, I mean, I think for me, balancing, is just to have, and also time blocking, knowing what you're going to do before you do it. I know what I'm going to do months in advance to the day,
Yeah. Great. How much professional development have you invested in yourself over the years?
A lot.
Yep.
A lot. When I discovered that leadership was my calling, which was through several DISC assessments, and I mean, I always knew that I was a leader because I'd say things like that. I would say, I'm a leader, not a follower. I knew I was always willing to be the one out front. I was always never scared to fail because, a leader is always the one doing something for the first time. So there's going to be some failure involved. That's you got to really fail forward to your way to success. So when I really knew that leadership was my calling, and really and truly, real estate is how I make money, but I feel like my calling is to lead others to financial freedom through biblical principles. That's really, really what I love. So I study people. I go to the largest church in the United States. It's called Church of the Highlands, and Chris Hodges is our pastor. He's a national known leader. John Maxwell, who I've seen. I study religiously. He's a leader that teaches in the secular world biblical principles. Just so many people. So I study people that are just, I think for me, honestly, I study all the greats in any field. I'm just an avid, like Elvis Presley. I want to know, why was he great?
Mm-hmm.
Or Sam Cooke, why was he great? Why was Michael Jackson so good? Why are certain people so good? What characteristics made them so good? What was the personality traits? What was their work ethic like? It doesn't really matter if it was in real estate or leadership or music or sports. For me, I study people, and I want to take a little bit of why they were great, and I kind of try to pour that back into what I'm doing.
A couple of books I think you'd love. I'm guessing you would have already read them though, but the Jim Collins, Built to Last and Good to Great. You read those?
Built to Last.
Yeah. His second book, Good to Great, and he's got a recent one out on E2 Entrepreneur 2.0, I think, which summarizes all his books. So yeah, I think that's studying obviously great companies and how to go from good to great. And yeah, I assume that would be something you'd be into.
Awesome.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
I have. I've had the uncanny ability to be around the best people. And that's where I really knew that how I can connect on a global scale. Here in Alabama, I could tell you many cases, but it was like I was always around the best person. And it wasn't because I was the best. It was just, I don't know. But, a friend of mine who I told this to, he said, Bobby, let me tell you something, the best attract the best. And I believe that. I believe kind of like, colorful fish attract other colorful fish. I believe that that, when you have that ability, there is a connection level. So for me, that's just been the case nationally and globally.
Yep. And do you have a board of directors or advisors?
Yeah, I mean, we have what we call mastermind
Yep.
groups. And so, if you know anything about Think and Grow Rich and Napoleon Hill and just some of those, that was kind of the foundation of creating masterminds where, you're the collective average of the 5 people that you hang around for. So I definitely have, masterminds in just about every area. And then we have national masterminds. And then I hang around people that are just doing it at such an elite level. I mean, the top names in real estate in the world I'm really associated with through EXP. And we're talking Tarek El Moussa of HGTV Flip or Flop, who has a star flipping show here in the United States. Lisa Copeland, who was huge in the automobile industry. Grant and Lena Cardone, of course, and the co-founder of EXP Realty, and just so many people that are just doing it at such a high level. I have I've been so fortunate to spend a lot of time with these people.
Yep. All right, Bobby, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I think it probably goes back to mindset. I think that's the hardest thing with anything. I think that if you really, anything in life that you want to succeed, whether it's to, win a gold medal or to, be a great husband or a wife, or to, build an empire or a small business, starts with mindset. And so, the number one thing you have to conquer is the mindset, and make up your mind that that's what you're going to do. And, I mean, if you want a particular, I mean, and obviously it comes down to being able to get the right people around you.
Yep.
Because if you want to build something, nobody's ever built anything great by themselves. I mean, a small business, you still need a team. You need a team in anything that you do. If you want to build an empire, a big business, you really need a team. If you want to build a small business, you still need a team of people around you that you trust, that you have, that you are like-minded, that you have the same mindset, the same goals, the same mission. And, I think that may be a little bit of the hard thing, because you can't, just like in a marriage, you can't control other people. You really can only control your actions. So you can only, the hardest thing is really connecting and aligning yourself with other people and creating that team that's why I think a lot of bands don't do what, the Beatles and Aerosmith and some of those do, because it's hard to get the right fit and harmony and people together that want to work as hard as that individual does,
Yeah, absolutely. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
A favorite business book?
Yep.
Man, I've read so many good ones. I have to go, and I know this really isn't, it helps me in my business. Have you ever read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie?
Yeah, I have.
It's
great book.
For me, that if you can't communicate with people and you can't build relationships with people, then you're really going to struggle having any type of business. So I know that's not really a numbers book. There's so many books out there. I mean, I've read every one of Donald Trump's book, who's an icon in, building businesses. But for me, a relationship, knowing how to develop relationships, is the key to building any business.
Yeah, totally agree. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I'm an avid, I did a lot of John Maxwell's leadership programs. Bigger Pockets is always a great podcast. So many podcasts out there but for me, I listen to a lot of audiobooks for me, and I read a lot. So I do that probably more than I do podcasts, but I really, really like, I like podcasts just like yours.
Thanks. I was just looking up John Maxwell quote, actually. Your dreams don't work unless you do.
That's a good one. He's full of them.
Yeah, sure is. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
QuickBooks. Well, Excel. I think you gotta. That's the main thing I think that businesses fail in. Whatever business. I mean, you could be able to cook the best food, and you think, hey, I can run a restaurant, or I can, whatever the case may be, an automobile shop or whatever. But if you don't know how money works and you aren't good at managing money,
yep,
you're not going to have a business.
No.
I mean, it's not really for a restaurant or for any kind of business, it's not really, that's doing what you love to do and making money at it. But you got to be in alignment with somebody and work with somebody, at least if you can't do it, somebody that really knows how to do bookkeeping really well.
Yep.
Somebody that knows how to organize the money really well and make it a profitable business.
Finally, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
What would I tell myself day one of starting out?
Mm-hmm.
I would tell myself that I am whatever I seek out to be. For me, I am. If I want to lead people to what I'll tell you what I tell myself every day. I mean, when I wake up, I tell myself exactly what I am. I say, I'm a great father to my children. I'm a winner. I'm a champion. I'm a warrior. I don't say anything negative about myself. I'm speaking to myself. I say, I lead billions of people to Christ. I'm a billionaire real estate investor and entrepreneur. I tell myself exactly what I want to be. I mean, so if you don't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Well, thanks, Bobby, for your time today. I really appreciate it. I think the audience get a lot of value out of what you shared with us. Up and down, or down, up, then down, then back up journey in business. Fantastic what you're doing. Starting out on your own now, up to around 50 team members and a lot more partners and joint venture partners in that as well. So yeah, congratulations on your success so far and your mission in life as well, and helping other people.
I really enjoy it, Troy. I love your accent, man. I can't wait to get to Australia and maybe we can hang out a little bit. You come to the United States and I'll show you around too.
I will. That'd be great. I haven't been to Alabama yet. It's one of the states on my list.
It's beautiful. I welcome you with open arms, brother.
Thank you. That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.